Okay, we're live. I'm gonna do this in one take because I really hate the sound of my own voice, and I'm too much of a cheapskate to hire an editor, and I can't bring myself to edit these podcasts myself because, again, I just hate the sound of my own voice. So, apologies if there is a few mistakes, or if I kind of stutter or mumble my words a little bit, or if I say something that's incorrect. But yeah, I kind of need to just get over myself eventually. But no, I'm gonna do this in one take. So hope you're still listening and yeah, enjoy what we're talk about for the next few minutes or so. But today I'm going to talk about loneliness and specifically a book called The Lonely Century by Narina Hertz. This is a book that basically talks about like how loneliness is becoming a big kind of problem in the world today. The author herself, Narina, is an economist who like explains like why loneliness is on the rise and how like it affects people's lives, like their communities and even the economy. The main the main theme of this book is there's everywhere there's loneliness. So the book's like discusses how showing how loneliness is becoming more common all around us. Like the book discusses how it shares stories and facts that highlight how loneliness affects our mental and physical health and our ability to connect with others. It also discusses the role of technology, how like the author Norina talks about how technology like social media and smartphones can make us feel more alone, even though like we're ironically more connected than ever. She explains like how we're spending too much time online, like that can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. She also discusses the power of money and loneliness. So like explores like how money and economic inequality like contributes to loneliness, and she discusses how people who are struggling financially often feel more isolated and how this can affect their well-being. And there's like a couple of other like themes she discusses. She discusses like politics and division. So she discusses like how politics like divides and like social polarization make people more disconnected from each other. She also can explain like she also does explain like this how this can lead to loneliness and affect their sense of belonging in society. And the last kind of theme that I have wrote down here in my notes is building community. So like despite the challenge that like of loneliness, like she offers examples of communities and organizations that are working to fight loneliness. And she talks about like how creating strong communities and meaningful relationships can combat loneliness. I would say like the pros of this book is that it's very easy to understand. Like when I read it, I found this book to be written in very simple language and that anyone can understand, make it accessible to like to any some sort of audience. I also found like that the author used real life examples, so she uses like real stories and examples to illustrate her points, making the book like a lot more engaging and relatable. And I also found that it covers different aspects of like she looks at loneliness from like different angles. Like she uses like I said before, like technology, money, politics, community, like giving it gives the readers a comprehensive understanding of the issue. Like, and I have like two kind of weaknesses down here, and one is it's probably kind of a bit minor, but it could offer more solutions. So, some readers like might wish for more concrete solutions to the problem of loneliness rather than just explanations of why it's happening, which I can kind of understand. If people read this, they'd be like, okay, I've read why, but what's the solution? Kind of with most books, it's not really like a fix your situation with loneliness. It's more like a textbook of like why there is a, let's say, pandemic, not pandemic, what's the word for it, other words got on my mind, but yeah, or epidemic, I think that's the word. I could be completely wrong on that, but yeah. And then one more small weakness I have is it's focused on Western society. So this book mainly focuses on loneliness in Western countries, so it may not fully reflect the experiences of people from other cultures. So I'm not really too sure if this book is in foreign languages or if it's in kind of like sold in Asian countries or African like countries or any other continents. But I think from a North American and European side of things, like it's probably a lot more focused on that. So it's kind of the evidence of loneliness might not be kind of conclusive in a worldwide kind of setting. But yeah, I think it is a very important book that sheds light on a growing problem in today's world, and she does offer valuable insights into why loneliness is on the rise and how it affects us all. And while it may not have all the answers, the book encourages readers to think about how we can create a more connected and supportive society. I definitely would recommend this book, and it's kind of very compelling read for anyone interested in addressing the issue of being kind of alone. So I'm just going to go through a breakdown. There's a small breakdown of each chapter, kind of just kind of what I took away from it, and just a few kind of like kind of highlighted sections here and there that I just note that I just found interesting. So chapter one. So this book is it's about 250 pages. It has about 11 chapters in it, and yeah, it's not too bad of a read. Like no chapters kind of feel like daunting, or they don't feel like a bit of a chore to read. They're all kind of very easy, and it's a good layout of the book. And you might buy the book and like think you'd be a bit overwhelmed because it's 400 pages, but 150 of that is like notes, index, just like notes of different studies, and it's all different like kind of like links to websites and stuff like that. Because obviously she talks about a lot of like surveys and like different kind of like articles that have in reference to loneliness. So chapter one is like the like this. It starts off saying like this is the lonely century. So this chapter like introduces the concept of loneliness as like a persuasive issue in modern society. It explores how loneliness is not only a personal experience but also societal and economic problem. um she discusses like the impact of loneliness on individuals' mental and physical health, and highlights like the need for collective action to address this growing epidemic. And the one thing I found very interesting was that she said, like, I'm thinking of paraphrasing this, but it's like being lonely, and being lonely is a lot more dangerous than like being a full time smoker like every day. Like if you like smoking like how many 20 cigarettes a day every day. Like apparently like being lonely is a lot more like dangerous than that, because you're more likely to be depressed and like come up with more mental health issues. But yeah, chapter two, it discusses about how loneliness, like it's how it's a killer. So she delves into the various factors that contribute to loneliness, and she examines like the role of technology, economic inequality, political polarization in like exacerbating like feelings of isolation. And through like personal stories and research findings, like Norina illustrates how these factors intersect and compound the loneliness epidemic. And then chapter three is discussing how technology is making us lonelier. Um, this chapter like explores the impact of technology, particularly social media, smartphones, on loneliness. And Narina discusses like how like constant connectivity can paradoxically lead to feelings of isolation and disconnect. She also examines the phenomenon of virtual loneliness and its implications for mental well being. And she then discusses in chapter four the Solarity City. So this is basically like the high price of being poor. So she examines like the connection between economic inequality and loneliness in this chapter. Like she discusses how financial struggles can limit social opportunities and lead to social isolation. And she also explains the stigma associated with poverty and its impact on mental health. And then chapter five, then she discusses it's called the contactless age, and I have it down as like the polarized society. So she discusses how like politics and how politics divides and social polarization contribute to loneliness. She discusses like how echo chambers and tribalism makes it difficult for people to connect across ideological lines. So she emphasizes the importance of bridging these divides to combat loneliness and foster empathy. And then this kind of follows on to like the loss of love and community. So she examines the decline of traditional communities and social institutions such as like churches and civic organizations. Um, Norina like discusses how like the breakdown of these structures have like led to increased social isolation and loneliness, and she also like discusses the importance of building strong local communities and fostering meaningful connections. And She then follows that on with the next chapter discussing the impact of changes in the nature of work, such as remote working and and the gig economy on loneliness. She discusses like how the lack of stable employment can like contribute to social isolation and affecting mental well being, and she also examines the role of meaningful work in combating loneliness. And then she discusses the power of connection. So she provides examples of communities and organizations that are working to combat loneliness. She discusses like the importance of fostering meaningful connections and building supportive networks, and she emphasized the role of empathy, compassion, and social responsibility in creating a more connected society. And then at the end of the book, then she discusses like how to like what's the solution. So she provides like practical solutions for kind of individuals, communities, and like kind of like policymakers to address loneliness. Like she discusses the importance of empathy, compassion, and social inclusion in combating loneliness, and she highlights like the need for collective action and social innovation to build a more connected world. And then she explores and then the end she kind of rounds off with exploring the changing nature of friendship in the digital age. She discusses how technology is like both facilitate and complicate our ability to form a meaningful relationship, and she examines like the role of social media, online communities, and digital platforms in shaping modern friendships. And then this book then will conclude with she concludes by kind of giving a general summary of the key points of the book and emphasizes the urgency of addressing loneliness as a societal issue. Um, she says like to the reader or like to anyone that's kind of like familiar with the book, she sends a call to readers to like take action to build more connected communities and support those who are struggling with loneliness, and it's kind of more aimed at people who are just very shy, are just like they're not very um they're afraid to be kind of they're afraid to take a risk. They're kind of like afraid to join a community because they're either too scared or just uncomfortable in being in an environment. But she definitely like with the points laid out in this book, she definitely suggests there's enough evidence there to suggest to kind of go out and even just try something, because if you try something you will like you might like it's a bit like working out. Like if you try something, you could either love it and then you don't have to go again. No one's forcing you to go again unless so you're kind of like obviously financially investing in something. But like the worst thing is at least you can always look back and say that you tried. So in that's what she's kind of like say she's trying to say in the end of the book, like just go out and try something. It's better than kind of sitting in by yourself wherever you are in your house. Like it's better to go out and just go outside and to interact with other people, even if you're like going to a shop or buying a coffee, and like interacting with the barista or the sales assistant, whoever it is. Like even a small bit of small talk is more beneficial than kind of just isolating yourself away from the world. And then in summary, in the epilogue, like she looks ahead to the future and discusses the potential of positive change in addressing loneliness. So she emphasizes the importance of like collective action and social innovation in creating a more like connected society. And yeah, it's all this book also encourages us to imagine a future where loneliness is no longer a pervasive problem. And yeah, I think that's kind of just a quick summary of the book. Um, like I said, it's very like you can buy it in kind of most shops. Like it's not very difficult to find. You can even just look it up online. But it kind of did change my kind of way of thinking of interacting with people. Like I used to kind of like dread conversation and used to dread, someone came up to me randomly. But now I'm a little bit more open to it because I just found like the importance of just social interaction. Like I do definitely notice, like now after I read this book, I do notice like during kind of like when we were in lockdown and stuff, I did find it a bit better after talking to someone, like after not speaking to anyone for days, then just being isolated and not really interacting with people, except maybe like online I might, but face to face always will kind of prevail over like kind of phone calls and FaceTime. So yeah, I think in any if you should try to make any sort of effort to be face to face with someone, because you do feel a lot better. I think especially as well. Most of the time I do work remotely, and when I do go into the office, I do feel kind of like a lot more not achieved, but like I feel a lot better myself that I've actually interacted with someone rather than kind of like talking to them over like a Teams call or whatever it is. But yeah, like I think I'm not gonna ramble on too much more on this because I think I don't want to be what's that, the law of diminishing returns, where the more I kind of say, it's like it's getting less useful from what I'm saying, or like the more you do, the less useful it becomes over time. I think that's what the law is. But yeah, I definitely would recommend reading this book. I'm just kind of flicking through it now, and I'm nearly tempted to read it again if I didn't have other 20 other books to read. But now that's my review. I'm not. Let me know what kind of book you want me, or let me know what book to review next time. Obviously a lot of them are on my Instagram page, or if I have never, if you know, if there's a book that I haven't put up, ask me, and then ask me, and I can, you know, go out my way to read it and then do a review on it. But I am thinking of doing. I'm not too sure what book. I might do like Extreme Ownership next, or I might do. And I'll have a look, but I think, yeah, I might do like maybe Principles by Ray Dalio, or I don't think I've done that one, but yeah, I think I might do Principles next or something like that. I do want to keep these interesting as well. Like I don't want to just do random books that I like. I want to do kind of books that kind of everyone, the general population kind of reads. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, or just message me on Instagram, or even just, yeah, even mention a comment on Spotify, or even DM me if you're a bit on the shyer side and don't want to be exposed to the public. But yeah, thanks very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.